What was a dumb rule at your school? If you have a high school romance, you will be subjected to disciplinary action. Best case scenario, you will be given a lecture and shamed by some draconian teacher. You and your girlfriend's parents will be informed for more shaming. Worst case scenario, you and your lover will be expelled from school for having a high school romance. Your community will join the rally and persecute you and your girlfriend. In order to avoid the public shaming, your girlfriend's family will have to move to another town and enroll her in another school. 2. Make sure that you will never see her again is happening in my country, Malaysia, specifically. Our local ethnic Chinese vernacular middle school/high school, run by hypocrites and draconian dictators. An inhumane, unscientific, barbaric system that deserves to be destroyed.
No playing chess in a lunchroom because it's gambling.
How is it gambling if you don't bet anything on it?
No clue to this day. My high school was chock full of dumb rules that were very inconsistently enforced. I mean, we had a school-sponsored chess team where we practiced and played other schools, with one of the teachers as a coach, and that was perfectly fine, but somehow totally illegal at lunch.
Zero tolerance if someone decided they wanted to break your nose, and blacken your eyes and bloody your lips. If you dared to use physical force against them to protect yourself, then you were considered a participant and were subjected to equal punishment. On a totally unrelated note, depression and suicidal ideation went off the charts within the years following the implementation of this rule. Zero tolerance meant something very different. When I was in middle school, it meant both parties in a fight or incident, regardless of if the victim fought back, would be punished for fighting. This, of course, meant victims had zero incentive to report bullying and every incentive to take matters into their own hands. It had consequences that would be exactly as you might expect, with many figuring if they were going to get suspended anyways, they may as well make it worthwhile. Because the most frequent bullies in my grade also happened to be physically smaller than average.
I'm old enough that up until 6th grade, zero tolerance wasn't a thing from kindergarten to 6th grade. My best friend at school and I were always the top athletes in our grade. And we were both hyper-competitive from grade 1 to 5 at least once a year. We would get into a scuffle that would finish as quickly as it started, with both of us being sent to the principal's office. The principal at the time would talk to us, see we weren't injured or angry, and chalk it up to boys will be boys. By 3rd or 4th grade, they wouldn't even let our parents know of the incident. In 6th grade, it happened again, except this time zero tolerance was in place. We were both sent to the principal's office. We had a new principal this year, and our parents were called into a meeting, which included the guidance counselor. My friend and I had to sit on opposite sides of a couch in the hall outside the principal's office. The principal kept telling us how serious what we did was and how much trouble we were in. Anyway, our parents show up and go into the principal's office while my friend and I are still sitting on the couch. I remember this took place on a Friday because my friend and I had already made plans to have a sleepover. Once we got to leave, we were called into the office, and the principal and guidance counselor had these serious looks on their faces. The first thing my friend said was, "Hey mom, examination double tomorrow is going to come over for a sleepover, and we are going to go to the pool tomorrow. Is that okay?" After he said that, both of our dads burst out laughing and just shook their heads at the principal. We ended up getting a couple of days of in-school suspension. From what my parents told me years later, the guidance counselor wanted to put us in therapy, and the principal wanted us sent to some kind of alternative school for troubled youth.
Baptist Elementary School in Alabama. Our 5th grade teacher had a lunchroom rule. Boys and girls could not sit together at lunch, nor were we allowed to interact on the playground. We also had to line up into lines anywhere we went, a boy line and a girl line. My Catholic K in CA did this. 2. Separate squares on the blacktop play area for each grade and gender. Lower gender grades were each assigned a kickball. For older groups, girls got a volleyball and boys got a basketball. In 4th grade, my only friend and I decided we were cats, so we formed a separate kiddie line in between the boys' line and the girls' line. Our teacher was an alcoholic who was losing it, and she didn't care.
Well, not at school, but on the bus ride there. Boys sat on driver's side of the bus. Girls sat on the curb side. Bus driver said he didn't want to be distracted by keeping an eye on boy-girl relations. But the 240 malt fucking liquors that he drank both morning and afternoon routes was okay. And usually the girls would get too loud, but as a result, the boys had to ride without talking. We had several accidents, and once he even pulled the bus over on a busy interstate and left us to go. Used the phone to call the city garage. Strange, he came back with 2 more malt liquors and a fucking attitude, too many to even list. One of them was that you could only enter the canteen at certain time windows during lunch, depending on which year group you were in. This was instead of just letting people queue up as they came. The result was that you were screwed and couldn't eat if you had a lunchtime detention or club, or if you were unlucky in one of the last slots. The queues always took too long, and the canteens would be crowded anyway. The only solution was to try and sneak in earlier, without being caught.